So what I'm going to talk about today, hopefully I'm going to dispel a couple of myths about how people think about marketing science people that they work with, and sort of the whole marketing sciences field, and talk about maybe some untapped ways to view these statsy people like myself, that can really lead to sort of maximizing everybody's best talents, and working out your projects in the best possible way. So we'll start with some myths. So this emoji is usually how people in my life would describe my job, sort of right off the bat. And in some ways that's true. I'm not going to say I'm not a data nerd, because I certainly am. And I would say a lot of people that go into stats and marketing sciences, advanced analytic, they're probably in that same boat as me. But some stuff that's not necessarily true. If you think about a statistician, maybe in your company or that you work with, oftentimes people assume they're very much behind the scenes. Certainly, if that was true of my job at RTI, I don't think I'd have this much support on the call of people who came to see what I was talking about. So certainly not behind the scenes, certainly involved in everybody's business all the time, in a good way. But there's this other perception that, this is maybe a resource at your company or a resource that you work with. Sometimes, maybe when you need it, maybe when you design a study thinking it's going to be very stats heavy or very advanced analytics heavy, but certainly not every study, not even most studies. And sometimes you think about your statistician as someone who can't do much until you have data. So this isn't the first person you bring in. This isn't necessarily somebody you work on your proposals with or you start doing all your planning with. But I'll talk in a minute about how maybe it should be. Because there is certainly some expertise there not being tapped into. And then finally, our last myth that we have up here is that the statistician is the person who takes whatever the client says and makes it happen. Sort of no in between, no additional interpretation or anything there. So if the client wants a discrete choice conjoint exercise, we take their inputs, we do it. If they want a segmentation, we take what they're looking for, we make it happen. And certainly the end goal is working towards, what the client is looking for in the end. But the key here is this untapped expertise. Sort of what else can a marketing science person offer? How can they maybe help everybody out or bring that very specific knowledge base into play, rather than sort of just being this nerd emoji behind the scenes? Okay, so the reality is that somebody who works in marketing sciences, and I wish there was sort of a catchy term for that because person working in marketing sciences is a bit of a mouthful, but I'll say statistician, I use them sort of interchangeably, but really this is a partner in the research process. So if you think about what all of those perceptions of a statistician were missing, it's this consulting aspect of it, this partnership, this specific knowledge that isn't giving you more work, but maybe fine-tuning sort of the outcome of the research that you're performing. So marketing scientists and statisticians have a really specific toolbox, but also a lot of similar, researcher type knowledge. So things that you are maybe an expert in complement very well with someone who's a more quantitative, analytic focused person. And when you bring those two toolboxes of knowledge together, what you can end up with is a really great partnership for designing the right experiment in the end. Sometimes that means translating things to and from stats back to English. Sometimes clients think that they're speaking in stats when really they're thinking sort of more, more product-based. And then you need your statistician to say, that's great that a product looks like this, but when we're testing it, maybe in a conjoint context, how do we translate that? How do we get the best analytics out of that? Not turning them away from the research that they want, but really fine-tuning it and translating it, so that you can utilize all of this advanced analytic work that really defines the research and distinguishes sort of basic do-it-yourself stuff from maybe these deeper insights in the end. And so all of that can actually happen before you have any data. So even though, yes, I am very much a data nerd, that doesn't mean that's the only time people get to talk to me. Lucky for me, because otherwise I'd be really bored most of the time. Once we have data, again, something else that you maybe don't think about is bringing your marketing scientist or your statistician into what are the actual objectives of what you're looking to do. Say, yes, we're doing a conjoint study. That's great. Certainly something I would need to know if I was designing a conjoint exercise. But what's the real objective here? Are we optimizing a line of products? Are we optimizing a very specific product? Are we looking for, are there different types of people out there who want different types of products? So if we know that ahead of time, then we can help guide the research to answer the right questions, and hopefully avoid a situation in the end where you've done really great research, but maybe it doesn't answer the one question that the client was hoping to get. So again, just using all of the tools that are at your availability can only ever help pretty much in the end. And this last bullet point could be somewhat controversial for some people. Not everybody is okay with their statistician talking directly to clients. But again, if you bring this translation idea in, where a good statistician can crunch the numbers, can wear their nerd emoji glasses, but can also explain it in English and can also explain sort of why did we take the steps we got to get to our ultimate answer? Sort of what are we seeing? How does this compare to maybe other conjoints or other turfs that we've seen in the world? And so having someone with that real experience actually doing the explaining is a great resource to have to add on to, the otherwise, beautiful and comprehensive insights reports that are maybe a little bit less marketing sciencey, statsy. So having this partnership and this consultative resource can really just kind of benefit everybody who works with it. And that's about it for me. But what I wanted to sort of create as a conversation starter here is sort of thinking about a time where, when would this have helped out if you had someone in the statsy part really coming in earlier on? That could mean things went wrong. That could mean things went great, but could have gone better. Or this could be a total hypothetical.